This is a video I wanted to make for a while because I've been traveling pretty much every year, if not two, maybe even three times some years over the past 2 decades to Florida. And people continually say to me, how do you do it? You must be a millionaire. Have you robbed a bank? How can you go to supposedly the holiday of a lifetime at least every single year? And I've picked up a few tricks along the way that I think can help make what for some will be a trip of a lifetime a little bit more affordable. Hi, I'm Stuart Robinson, and yeah, for the past 20 years I have been going to Florida nearly every single year, but I do it on a budget. On this video today, I want to cover 3 things: your park tickets, talking about Universal Studios and Disney and the best places to go for those. Also your hotels as well, and how to get a more affordable hotel if you're not too fussy, that is. But of course, I want to kick off with talking about the flights. They are arguably the most expensive part, or certainly one of the most expensive parts of any Florida holiday, and they can get pricey. But I'm here to tell you that doesn't need to be the case. My favorite website for booking flights is skyscanner.net. It always has been. I swear by it. Not only does it cut down the hassle of having to go onto all the individual airline sites, and particularly when you get to some of the American sites and you're having to do dollar into either euro or pounds conversions, and then you're going to Aer Lingus and you're having to do the euro into the pounds conversions. I prefer to stay with Skyscanner. It gives everything in your local currency and it does a complete comparison. Now here's the one thing I will say about booking a flight to Florida, and probably Orlando is where many of you will be flying into. Although in recent years there have been other options such as TUI. They've been putting on a charter flight from some big UK airports like Gatwick, Manchester, and even Belfast International. I took the Belfast flight last year, which took me directly to a Florida airport called Melbourne. Yeah, not Australia, Melbourne on the east coast of Florida. Now that takes you about 90 minutes to 2-hour drive away from all the action in Orlando. So you will need to consider maybe hiring a car or certainly using the bus that is available at that airport to take you into Central Florida. The flight prices, well, actually I got an incredible deal. I paid about £250 for a direct flight, but I booked it really late and just before the kids got off for summer to get that incredible deal. And because Melbourne is a small airport, it was a good option last year. You clear the immigration at the US side really quickly because there's not many massive jets coming into that airport. Nothing for me though beats Aer Lingus from Dublin. It's always a good option as well, and mainly because of the pre-clearance with the immigration at the Dublin side, to be able to effectively clear that, to have that sense of reassurance in your mind before you actually board the flight that the immigration process has been completed, and also that you're not going to be lining up in potentially a huge line at immigration when you get to the US side. Flying from Dublin and pre-clearing is a big perk that's probably not talked about enough. With Aer Lingus though, you can usually expect to pay a little bit more. This is another great reason to use skyscanner.net. If you can be flexible with your dates, it can give you the cheapest dates out and the cheapest dates back in from Orlando at a glance. Some people have dates set in their mind, and very often I find that those are the people that will pay sometimes up to 2 or 3 more times for a flight. Do you really need to go on the Saturday? Can you go on the Wednesday? Can you make the Thursday work? Do you need to be coming back in from Orlando on a Friday or a Saturday or at the weekend? Can you come in midweek? If you do have the option to be flexible in your schedule, I highly recommend it. This is the best way to save money on flights. I have a thing with myself that I will refuse to pay for more than £450 for a return flight to Florida, to Orlando, and that is usually direct with Aer Lingus. There are deals there all the time, sometimes €50 up to €100 off transatlantic flights at different times of the year and within different booking windows. You just have to keep an eye out for when those are. Get yourself on a good mailing list. But the key for the cheap Florida flight, of where you want to pay no more than £400, £450. And as I did last year on the TUI flight from Belfast, I'll come back onto that in a second, £250 return all in. But you have to be prepared to be flexible. With that TUI flight that I paid just that ridiculously silly reduction on, it was because we went the week before the kids got off for school. As soon as the kids get off for school in the summer, the prices will double, will treble. Can you go the week or the 2 weeks before the school breaks up in the summer? Can you avoid the half-term break or get away before the half-term break kicks in? Those are all the kind of things you're going to want to look at in the whole when you're trying to get that flight, so you can avoid paying £700, £800, £900 for a return flight to Orlando, and you can do it for £200, £300, £400. It will make all the difference. But being flexible is the absolute key to getting those cheap Florida flights. And keep across Aer Lingus and TUI in the summer with that Belfast, Manchester and Gatwick flight. At this time of recording, the itineraries have not been released for TUI yet, which is a problem if you are a planner and you want to be paying off your holiday in advance. That itinerary and those flight routes, in fact, have not been announced at this point. So you have to just kind of take the chances that that's going to happen. If you are somebody who likes to book it in, well, then you're going to have to go with the regular airlines that already have their schedules for the year planned. But you will, in all honesty, probably pay more as opposed to waiting for the charter flights to come out and then snag that deal if you can be flexible on your dates. Hotels next, and yeah, Orlando is like many places in America and probably many places you've traveled to lately where you can actually spend a clean fortune on your hotel, but equally you can actually find little deals very cheap. Now, you don't want to be staying in the Bates Motel, but do you really need to be staying in a 2-bedroom suite in a Disney deluxe accommodation paying nearly £50,000 for 2 weeks during the summer? Yeah, I've gone through all the Disney accommodations and I'm priced completely out of their market now, which is a shame. I enjoyed staying on property at Disney many years ago when it was much more affordable. They're obviously getting the fit flow still in because they can continue to charge these ridiculous rates for rooms. I'm here to tell you, they are simply not worth it. Yeah, they're incredible. They immerse you in all the magic and they're close by the theme parks, but are they worth some of the silly amounts of money Disney are asking for at the moment? Absolutely not. Even the most basic Disney accommodation, which is frankly a Premier Inn with a bit of Mickey Mouse spread around the rooms, can charge you $3,000 for a week, a 10-day or a 2-week visit, depending on where you're going. They're just not worth the money, in my opinion, anymore. You'll get so much more value for money in an off-site property. And don't forget, if you've never been to Disney, you've got to imagine the scale of this place. So being on Disney property doesn't necessarily mean you'll be that much closer to the theme parks than somewhere just off property. The place is huge, don't forget. So if distance is really important to you, of course there are perks like the Disney transport, but really for me, the price just doesn't make it viable anymore. For a very small bedroom with a family of 4 or 5 cooped up inside a bedroom for 2 weeks, you can get a villa in nearby Kissimmee for similar kind of prices, or 2 or 3 bedroom condos or apartments in sort of nearby International Drive or along the West Erlo Bronson Memorial Highway, which is the main 192 that runs along Kissimmee, just south of the Disney theme parks. And some of these hotels, many of them in fact have shuttles as well. Uber's readily available in Disney too, but of course you'll probably want to use a car. If you're in Central Florida, most people will hire a car, and that will get you to and from wherever you're staying. So really, unless you're not driving and you've got a lot of money, you want to avoid these Disney hotels. They're just ridiculously priced now. And I know this from experience now, knowing that they are 3 or 4 times more than they were just a short 10, 12 years ago. International Drive is another good one if you're visiting the Orlando theme parks. That's Universal Studios, Islands of Adventure, and Epic Universe, which opens up later this year too. Maybe you've got older kids, and sort of Universal certainly appeals to older families and older kids. And on site you can stay at Universal, and I can tell you these hotels are every bit as classy and as luxurious as the Disney ones. They're arguably closer, some of them, to the theme parks than some of the Disney hotels are to the Disney theme parks, and you'll get a lot more value for money and perks if you're staying on site at the Universal Orlando parks. But again, you will pay more than you will for some of the accommodations on the nearby International Drive. So again, you're going to want to look at these comparison sites. Trivago is a good one, or just Google Hotels comparison is a good one as well. Having the luxury of being flexible on your dates can save you an absolute packet on a hotel. You can get something really decent at a good price in Orlando if you're not hung up on staying at Disney. That's where they get you. That's where you start to pay the big money. Right, let's move on and finally discuss park tickets. Again, these have got pretty expensive in the last couple of years. In fact, recently I checked back an old invoice from a Disney ticket from 10 years ago and figured out that the base price ticket this year will cost twice as much as it did just a decade ago. These prices are getting out of hand, and they will add to the cost of a Disney holiday. And when you add Universal on top of that, it can get ridiculously high. You're at a family of 4 all of a sudden, and you've maybe forked out the guts of $4,000 on theme parks. I'll always recommend you do Orlando for at least 2 weeks. The flights won't cost you any more in that time, and the park tickets won't cost you any more. In fact, they offer up a 14-day ticket for the price of 7, so you'll not be paying any more there. You'll just have to factor in the extra accommodation and food prices. But generally, if you are making this big family holiday, you're making this commitment, it's worth taking a little longer to get the money together, in my opinion, and to do it properly, get to see more and do more and have a better holiday experience. Particularly, as I say, the flights and the park tickets won't actually add to the price of the holiday, given that they're 2 of the most expensive parts of it. It's something to consider. So what have I used in the past? Well, I'll always look at the Disney and Universal websites themselves. Sometimes you can get a little deal on there. In fact, Disney are doing up to 20% off some of their tickets at this moment. I've never seen this before, where such a big discount is being offered on select dates. So it's certainly worth looking at this, and you will get a 14-day ticket for the price of 7. That will give you admission as much as you want into the 4 Disney parks and their 2 water parks. I'll always advise people in the UK and Ireland, never buy tickets on the gates. That is where you arrive up at Disney and you pay $200 odd a day to get in. It is simply not worth it for international visits. Those sort of base daily and 2-3 day ticket options that you get at the gate on the theme parks in America are specifically for domestic visitors, people from America who come down to Disney for a day or for the weekend. They're not made or designed to give value for money to UK or Irish visitors, so do not buy them. Always buy your tickets before you go to Florida, and you'll be looking for those 14-day deals. The Disney website, as I mentioned, or the Universal website are good places to go. Typically a Disney ticket is at around £500, it looks like, for this year, give or take, depending on the time of the year, the month you'll be visiting. And the Universal Orlando theme park tickets are a little bit more expensive this year as well. But do keep in mind, most of those UK ticket bundles now include 1 day at Epic Universe, which is a hot ticket. This is, of course, Orlando's newest theme park, the largest theme park in the world, that opens on the 25th of May. So if you're buying tickets for later on this summer, that Epic Universe day ticket is also included in the price of your universal tickets as well. But the two main UK sites you should be looking at, and probably for the best deals and the ones I've used loads over the years, are Florida Tix and Attraction Tickets. Florida Tix and Attraction Tickets, they're usually the two best ones for deals, but do check those against the Disney and the Universal sites and just compare and contrast and see where the deals are to be had and who is offering up the cheapest option. And to be honest with you, they're usually not too far from one another. There's usually maybe 10, 15 pound, 20 quid in it at most. And you can also get combo deals as well if you want to lump the Disney and the Universal tickets together, and even some of the other Orlando area theme parks can be a part of that. You can buy an entire ticket that does pretty much every theme park in the state for a ridiculous amount of money. Whether or not you'll get your money's worth out of that and get around all those within a 2 or 3 week period is very unlikely. I think very often people who go for those bite off more than they can chew. So again, I would never recommend those, and even at that, if you're going with very young kids, I don't really recommend Universal anyway. You'll want to do Disney, and you can certainly come and go as many times as you want. And with those UK tickets, of course, don't forget they include the water parks and the park hopper option, which means you can go into a park in the morning, and then you can go into another theme park later in the afternoon. You can jump between theme parks as you come and go, and that's a benefit when you buy those tickets for UK and visitors from Ireland as well. So there you have it, how to do Disney. Well, maybe not so much on a budget. This is still a big holiday. There is no way around this. It will cost a lot of money, but it doesn't need to be as expensive as a lot of people think it will be or it might be. You have to plan, you have to be prepared to look at flight comparisons, you have to be prepared to look at hotel comparison sites and work out your dates yourself. But the number one tip I'll give is you need to be prepared to be flexible. If you can be flexible with your dates, you'll get better flight prices, you'll get better hotel prices, and even better park ticket prices too. If you're hooked into these 2 or 3 weeks in the summer when the kids are off and that's the only time you can go, absolutely, you're going to find it not only more expensive, but in my experience, more unpleasant. Crowd sizes are higher, the weather is not great. Yes, it's very warm, too warm in my opinion, and that means you've got the typical Florida thunderstorms and the downpours to contend with, which is never fun either. Great time to go is just before the kids are off, April, May, June, and then the back end of summer, late August into September, October, cracker times to be visiting Florida. Yeah, you can spend a fortune if you want to go and, have that luxury Disney hotel where you've spent practically, you could buy a house for the price of some of these hotel rooms for 2 or 3 weeks, but you can also do it a hell of a lot cheaper as well. Hopefully some of that information has been useful. I get asked about it all the time. I've hopefully covered the 3 main things there, but there are other things perhaps for other videos, such as car hire and eating out and things like that, and how to dine when you're there. So feel free to say that in the comments if there's anything specifically you'd like to know, anything that I haven't covered, or if you've any tips or hints or suggestions, leave those in. Subscribe to the video, give me a like, and leave me some feedback for the follow-up video on this as well. Stop paying over the odds for Florida. Yes, everything is damn expensive. Yes, the Sunshine State has gotten very expensive as well, but it doesn't need to be as dear as a lot of you might think it is. See you next time.